Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to this point where we will taking questions and we'll be surprised with answers. So, ladies and gentlemen, questions, we are ready. Roll.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Winston McCleary. I'm Mayor of Port Antonio. Not much of a question, it's more an observation. Comment was made by Professor Wint relating to giving more women an opportunity to serve in Parliament or Council. But I am a bit weary. If we interfere or influence the amount of women who are up for representation, then by virtue of that, I think we will actually tamper with the democratic system, because we'll be actually forcing on the people by gender a certain amount of persons. So I think it's a dangerous thought. Because I am supportive of anyone who is worthy of representing me, not by gender, but by virtue of the person's ability or what the person portrays to me. So if you were to say a percentage of women would represent, you take away that right for that person to be selected by the delegates or the electorate by virtue of that person's own action and deed. So I am weary of the thought of putting any form of percentage representation by virtue of gender.
Thank you very much, sir. But I think you actually answered yourself. But
Question?
do you care to answer, sir? All right. All right, gentlemen and ladies, I'm respectfully asking that you make them short. Ask the question and allow the persons to answer.
Okay. Nathaniel Christie, in your opinion, do you think the two elections, the local and national, can happen in Jamaica on one day? How long do you think it will take us to be prepared for that?
Question. Thank you, sir.
The name is Bevan Miller, and before I even ask my question, I'd just like to thank the presenters, especially the Jamaica Youth Theatre for their presentation as well. My question is, can we have an update on where we are presently on the issue of the campaign financing in Jamaica? Because I noticed the National Integrity Action Movement have this as one of the issues that they are working on. And indeed, the Electoral Commission, along with the NIA, also speaks very highly about we reaching where we have 100% participation in our elections. We still need to note that our politicians need to be a little more responsible, because the truth is they are the ones that are turning off the voters. The fact that people are not seeing them working in the way that they ought to work for us.
My name is Floyd Pattison, Councillor of the St. Margaret's Way Division. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all the presentations. They were good. So many questions I have, but I am going to narrow it down just to one. And I want to focus on Dr. Trevor Manual, my mentor. Dr. Manual, corruption. When you speak of corruption, it cuts me to the bone. I see corruption taking over Jamaica to the point where, if we're not careful, good, sensible, honorable people are going to run away either to the hills or leave and go somewhere else. If it's even to go to Thailand. I don't think we are serious about breaking the back of corruption. Why? Because it is the same politicians who are involved in the corruption. They are the ones who are supposed to ensure that the laws against corruption are passed through Parliament. And you're hoping that it will be dealt with quickly. I don't think it is going to be a reality in the near future. Nobody is going to sign a document that will send himself to prison. I would want to see in the future, Dr. Monroe, where before an individual goes to represent us, be it in Parliament at the MP level or the councillor level, just like how we do it in the JDF, where somebody go in your community and ask about you, where you're coming from and so on. Ask about the individual. And if there is anything shady, we do it like in the United States, where you are impeached. If you even smoke a ganja split from school days, it is brought up. Until we can do that, and until individuals go to prison and are disgraced, we're not going to break the back of corruption.
I'd like to deal with the issue of the role of gender in the electoral management process in response to the question. And thanks very much for the question. I'm trying to see who was the questioner. Okay, yes. I mean, the point that you make is an extremely important one. You don't want to take away the right of individuals to vote for the person of their choice. But notice that when I spoke about the gender issue, I spoke about dealing with the impediments associated with having more females participate in the process of electoral politics. That doesn't necessarily mean quotas. A number of countries have moved in that direction without putting in place quotas. There are a range of ways in which this process can take place. The work that we are currently doing as the ECJ with the UN Women's Programme has not defined the path. What we're trying to do is to understand the problem, understand the impediments. But let me give you one example. Last year, we had a presentation from Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith on the issue of women in politics. And one of the points that she made was that one of the things that keeps women away from politics in Jamaica is the garrisonization, if I can use the term, of Jamaican politics. The fact that a number of our constituencies are very tough. They're garrison constituencies. There's this masculine overlay on them. There's a roughness, and that is not the kind of environment that facilitates female participation. But it's also not the environment that we want as well. I mean, that's something that we have a problem with because we have a major problem with issues of voter intimidation. So my only point here is that we have to look at the ways in which we can increase the gender balance, and that doesn't necessarily mean we are going to be contemplating restricting the choice of voters. We're going to be looking at ways to remove the impediments from having greater levels of female participation in the electoral process.
I make a quick comment on that for you to think about it. Women are 50% of our population here and around the world. Since talent is evenly distributed, it means that 50% of the talent of the country is in our women. When you therefore have a board of directors, a cabinet or a parliament that doesn't give equal opportunity for women to be 50% of that, it means that you're losing 50% of the talent in the country. How some countries have handled this, and we need to think about it, is that they say, look, no man have to pass a test. So why should a woman have to pass a test more than the man in order to run for being on a board of directors or to be a member of parliament? And there are things about our election process that keep the women away. So in South Africa, for example, the African National Congress has a quota. They have a percentage of their candidates must be women because they recognize that women have talent. In Guyana, it's the only country in the Caribbean that has done this, they also have a quota for the women. So I leave that thought with you, because if we continue in a politics where, since adult suffrage, The average percentage of women in our House of Parliament is 12 and 13 and 14%. We're losing talent from a significant part of 50% of the population. We have to find a way to get them involved.
On the issue of whether or not we can conduct 2 elections in one, what the Commission is working to do is to ensure that any government that is in power can exercise that option. The Commission does not have the right to insist that that be so. The chair mentioned that she saw that happening in South Africa. Earlier this year, I observed the elections in Nigeria, where 3 elections were conducted in one. I am saying that the people of Jamaica are no less intelligent, are no less talented. That would say that we are unable to do the same thing. And just for the record, presently, in Portmore, in 3 constituencies, we actually conduct 2 elections in one, where persons vote for the mayor, the only elected mayor in the country, and they also vote for a councillor. So what would be required is to replicate that across the island. And the Commission has looked at what would be required, and therefore I am saying that if the powers that be should so indicate, the Commission is ensuring that it is in a position to conduct 2 elections in one if we need to.
Campaign finance, very quickly. The Parliament passed rules and recommendations proposed by the Electoral Commission, which has both sides represented on it, from 2010. Again in 2012, the minister responsible wrote me in response to my question, which was your question, to say that he hoped to get campaign finance passed by end of 2013. We're now in 2015. The latest I hear is that the bill is now with the minister and it should be laid when the summer recess is over. But I want to urge you, brothers and sisters, don't just take the word. Ask the question on the air, just like you asked it a while ago. Where is campaign finance? That would limit the amount of money any single person can give to a party and buy the party or buy the politician. It would limit criminal money from going to political parties. Right now, OLINT, which is an illegal organization under Jamaican law, others like it can give money to the political party legally. That has to stop. So we're saying, I'm urging you to speak out for campaign finance reform so that it comes quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to you, madam.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Samantha Dukas.
Corruption. Councillor from St. Margaret's Bay. I hear your passion and I share your passion, my brethren. It cannot be. Survey after survey show that 7 out of every 10 Jamaicans believe that corruption is rampant in our country. Just like all of us who are here. There is some good news though. You may not believe it. Some of us only want to hear bad news. Well, I'll tell you some good news. In 2006, 1 out of every 3 Jamaicans admitted to paying a bribe, paying a money, passing a money to get a driver's license, a certificate of fitness, birth certificate, and so on. That was above the global average at that time. In 2014, which is last year, that 36% had gone down to 10%, 1-0. The global average remains at 27%. What this means is that the smaller people are not paying as much. One of the reasons being that there is greater efficiency. Some of the departments are being run much better. You don't have to pay money nor grease anybody's hand to get a passport quick. You can pay the money legitimately and the passport come to you. And because there's greater efficiency, you don't have the incentive to pay money, even though it still remains. 10%, that is lower than all the countries in the Latin America and Caribbean. That is lower than the global average of 25%. So that is the good news. The bad news is that somehow, and I think this is what you're talking about, big people who are involved in corruption don't seem to get before the courthouse. And if they get into the courthouse, they are not convicted. And if they are convicted, they are not sentenced. It's how much years since independence now? 53? Yeah, August 62, we're now in 2015. Schools challenge quiz. Put up your hand if you know how many ministers have been brought before the court, tried, sentenced, and served time in the 53 years of Jamaica independence. I say a hand here, how many? One single, and that is 1990. Either all of our leaders are squeaky clean or something is wrong. And I think that is what Jamaicans are saying, and that is what you are saying. And this is why we are saying to the government, and to the credit of the government, they have brought a special prosecutor bill. The previous administration tried it. It never reached nowhere. So it had problems. Golden started to put in place a special prosecutor for corruption. This new government has taken it up, and it has gone a far way. It is now before a joint select committee. But the only way that it is going to come out of that joint select committee with teeth is not if me, Trevor, talk about it, or Mrs. Pine McClarty or Professor Winton Earl Jarrett, is if you, councillor, and your members, and MPs, 2 MPs are here. If the MPs said, look, this thing taking too long, the country is suffering, our international reputation is suffering. Let us get it done quickly. Then I am sure that Minister Mark Golding and the Joint Select Committee will make sure that when the Parliament resumes, the Integrity Commission Act will be passed and there will be a special prosecutor for corruption, but only with your voice in it.
All right, sorry, madam, you may go now, please.
Good afternoon, Samantha Dukas, election day worker representing St. Mary Western. Professor Winter, in his presentation, you made mention of ECJ being entrenched in the Constitution, and then Professor Manual, you mentioned some roadblocks instituted by our parliamentarians, and you encourage us to speak out, but at this stage, how can we speak out at this point where the thing is before them? What can we do? Is it a situation that a referendum, for example, because I'm concerned about the ad hoc way in which elections are being called in Jamaica. Can we have a situation perhaps like a referendum be taken before the country that we have fixed election dates? What are those media available for us to speak out? And also an issue for me is, we talk about economic development and persons. You say that foreign exchange is one of the our breadwinner in Jamaica. But what about our diaspora? Is there a way in which they can vote? I heard discussions about that before. I want to know perhaps where that is.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to say thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. My name is Carrie Morrison Boonville. I'm a citizen of the Anota Bay community and an election day worker. Mr. Trevor Manual, my question to you today is, how can we, the common people in our society, from our different affiliation, aid or assist in fighting corruption and building integrity for our nation? Where can we sign up? Who do we talk to? And how can we ensure that our intervention is effective in combating corruption? Thank you.
Let me congratulate the Social Development Commission, the NIA, and the Electoral Commission for this forum. I think we should give them a big round of applause. I want to support the councillor from St. Margaret's Bay that our approach towards corruption must have some amount of speed, because the people who practice corruption institutionalize exactly what they do. There are some laws, and I think that Dr. Trevor Manual mentioned the Integrity Act. There's also the unlawful possession law that we must really relate to, because that law stipulates that you need to prove where you get the goods from, how you come about these goods, how you come about these resources. And I think that's one of the laws that we should look at, and that one is available. In terms of the Electoral Commission, after the elections, and I want to make a comment that most of the persons who are involved in elections in Jamaica, about 8% of them are women, PD workers, PD captains, runners and what have you. And that's the indicator that women must be institutionalized and give them a fair share in the voting system. Right? You know, I think that after an election, I say what you want, Reverend. I know we have a time constraint, right? After every election, the election commission actually go a little dormant like. I'm not saying that it's dormant, right? But the commission must help to preserve our democracy. And you know that in some countries there's a recall for political representative, right? The Speaker of the House just this week started to comment about attendance to Parliament, right? The Electoral Commission need to look at this, and those MP from any side, the PMP or GLP, who have been voted in to Parliament and do attend, should be recalled after some amount of time. If it's 3 meetings they do attend, you recall them. Also, how they speak in Parliament. The constituency should help to mandate an MP to speak on issues in Parliament. If it's the environment, they say, listen, this is how we want you to vote. If you don't vote that way, you're in trouble, right? Because you get a mandate from your constituency. Because, for example, I hear an MP in Parliament speaking about Carl Gardens from Boston at the time, and I don't see how that affects his constituency, right? And there are issues that are non-relevant to the constituency that are being spoken about. I think that the Electoral Commission and the NIA must study a system. Since you have been exposed to a lot of election process in many countries, find one country that have a recall system, that if there's a suspicion that you have your hand in the trough, we recall you and make you stay aside and we have an election, right? And I think that those are areas we must pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor, can we just take those who are standing and then you answer all? Thank you. No more stand, please. We'll take those who are already in line. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Winston McCleary, just a common citizen. My questions or my concern today is directed at Professor Monroe. I heard you, sir, and you're very passionate about, speaking out. Sir, I'm going to ask you, how can, I'm concerned about, the ability of the small man to really speak out and be effectively heard. How can this happen when the media is by and large politically affiliated? The radio or media personnel are sometimes obviously biased. How can the small man speak out in this country when the only voice that are heard are those of people in some form of authority or with some significant wealth or whatever that can influence, others? The only time the small man is heard is when he demonstrates. The only time when he blocks the road. The only time he's heard, take for example, what does the poll show? That they are refusing to vote. That's the only time that the politicians are concerned. Some method must be enacted that the voice of the small man can be heard.
Good afternoon. All protocol observed. I am Clement Clunis, the caretaker councillor for Highgate Division. My question is, why is it hard for a politician to get a map for the area in which he or she represents? This I consider as a critical tool because it will show one his or her boundaries. I applied for same and same was not given. So at this forum, I am applying again to be equipped with such a document. I would also like to commend Professor Trevor Manual for speaking out as he laments on democracy as it relates to, he did not say marginalized of ladies. But I remember in my younger days, I read from Language for Living, Book 1, where ladies were marginalized. And I believe that the ladies play a significant role beside their men and the family to a large extent. This is my question and contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting, I know the time has passed, but I respectfully asking if you can be a little quieter, please.
Good evening.
Yes,
My name is Garcia Gray. Sorry, good evening. My name is Garcia Gray, and I'm the PMP candidate for Oak Bay Division. My concern is vote buying in West Portland. Vote buying in West Portland. It is a major concern, and who is contributing to it? The representative. Who we are putting out there, what measures are being taken right now to reduce or to eliminate vote buying as it stands right now. Thank you.
All right. Last one is a lady, and we certainly have more ladies this evening than men. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Moore, and I represent as part of the Parish Development Committee for Portland, and I want to speak about the matter of dual citizenship. You might recall that it's a constitutional breach if you have a dual citizenship and you actually make representation. And there, as a member of parliament to represent the country, and therefore I want to know what is being done through the EOJ to ensure that the 2011 experience that we had, where so many candidates had dual citizenship, put the country through the great expense of having by-elections, and how do we prevent that from recurring, putting taxpayers' money to waste for a second time around.
Thank you very much, my good lady. And now, go ahead, Jay.
Let me start with the question that was raised about the enshrinement of the ECJ in the Constitution. I think the questioner suggested that it is enshrined in the Constitution. I think that was it. It's not yet enshrined. And that's one of the things that we are pushing for, to have it enshrined in the Constitution. And so any support that we can have in terms of speaking out on this matter is certainly welcome, but that is certainly an agenda item for the ECJ. I think that same individual raised the question of whether or not it's appropriate for us as a country to have a referendum on a fixed election date. We haven't taken a position in the ECJ on the issue of a fixed election date. I think the reason we haven't done that is we've seen many election systems around the world work quite well with the Westminster system that we have now that does not incorporate a fixed election date. But, you know, times change. And one of the important things is that as a country, we need to be able to respond to the direction in which we feel that there is public interest. There are good reasons to have fixed election dates, and it has worked well in some systems. So we haven't taken a position yet, but we are certainly open to canvassing views about whether or not this is worthwhile for us to really put a lot of effort into trying to understand where that is an appropriate direction. I should point out that generally speaking, the focus of the Commission is on trying to make our existing system as free and fair as possible, as opposed to campaigning for a completely different political system. But it's certainly something that we are willing to have dialogue about. The other issue about issues of recall provisions and the general point about ECJ activities outside of the election period, I want to start with that one. As a Commission, we feel very strongly that our work is not just the work associated with the actual running of an election. We have a set of responsibilities that essentially go year-round and go throughout the electoral cycle. And actually, if you look at our meeting frequency, we meet on a regular basis and essentially weekly between committees and commission meetings, whether elections are happening or whether elections aren't happening. Because so much of the process associated with elections needs to be put in place long before any elections are called. So we agree very much with the issue that we should be operating on an ongoing basis. And if you haven't heard from us, you expect to hear from us more. I mean, our town hall meeting here is not in anticipation of an election next month or next quarter. We don't know when the election is going to be held, but we're here. And this is something that we will do on an ongoing basis. The final point I would link on is the issue of voter buying. We feel extremely strongly in the Electoral Commission that votes should not be bought. Now, what the ECJ has done is put in place systems so that your vote is a private matter. Nobody can know for whom you have voted. And so anybody who's buying your vote is buying it on faith because they don't know what you voted. So we're encouraging, and that was the whole essence of the skit that you saw from the group. Don't sell your vote. Your vote cannot be bought if you don't sell it. And this is true right across the country. So two things. We put in place systems so that nobody knows what your vote is. Now, if you decide to sell your vote to somebody on faith, even though they can't be sure about whom you voted, it's very difficult for a system to stop that. What we can do from a system perspective is to make sure that your vote is a private matter. And that's what we're working on. And we can engage in a process of public education, which is what we're doing now. And that public education says that there's nobody that can give you enough money that's worthwhile you're selling your soul. And your vote in this context is your soul.
On that matter of vote buying, I just want to add to what Alvin said. It is against the law. The Representation of the People's Act provides for a fine of up to $80,000 or a term in prison for vote buying or vote selling, not just the man who offends you. But if you take it and you're caught, and one of the things that NIA is going to be doing, the serving notice, we're going to be running a series of public awareness ads on the television against vote buying. And we're going to be consulting with the police to find out how they can do sting operations, just like how they do sting operations and catch other people. Why a policeman can't pose as a voter and a man come to him and offer money, whether area leader or whoever, and then use that as evidence and make an example of the vote buyer or the vote seller. $80,000 fine or prison. Because we need to put a stop to this thing. It is undermining our democracy, and as you point out, in some constituencies, it is very, very bad. Two other quick points that came up. the issue of members of parliament. I agree there are some MPs who are performing very well. They've got to parliament regular, they raise questions from the constituency, they get answers. Others of them are passengers. They don't go, and when they go, they are ministers of silence. You don't hear from them, you don't know what is the problem in their constituency, they're not representing anybody. And therefore, one of the positions that NIA is looking at is exactly what the chairman of the PDC said, and that is the right of recall. There's one country in the Caribbean in which it now exists, in Belize, where if an MP is not doing his job, a certain proportion of the voters can start a petition for recall, and they can force a vote in order to take him out before his time if he's not doing the job properly. And that is something that we need to look for in Jamaica, because people are complaining a lot. Just look at me or Earl or Alvin. Nobody inside here have job security for 5 years. No matter what you do, if you don't work, you're still in the job for 5 years. If you do your job bad, you're still in the job for 5 years. The only job in Jamaica that I know, when you don't perform, you still have the job for 5 years, is a member of parliament. It is not acceptable, and we should talk about the right of recall. The final point I'd like to make, and it's really the question of the voice of the small man. It is very, very important to use what we have. We don't have that which is perfect, but it's better than many. There are many talk shows, and believe you me, I'm sure the MPs and the council can testify that they listen to the talk show, and they are not, some of the talk shows are not politically aligned. I can testify, I hear people calling Cliff Hughes from PNP side, JLP side, and no side, and you can hear the voice of a small person. So use what is available to you. It's not perfect, but it has worked. Last year, Minister Phillips had proposed a tax which people call the withdrawal tax. In other words, if you take money out of the ATM, the bank would have to pay a tax. People ball out. He proposed it in April 2014, and by the end of the month, he had to pull it back. So it is possible to get a response without blocking the road. But it's not easy. You have to try your best, and if it don't work, then you have to exercise your democratic right to protest and to demonstrate in a lawful manner. But let us try first before we resort to those kinds of actions. Impeachment, constitutional reform, very hard, but we can do it. In 1995, both sides of the parliament agreed that there will be certain changes in the constitution, including impeachment. That means any public official who abuse their power, whether Governor General or civil servant, could be impeached. 2015, still no law. But something has been achieved, because in 2011, the Charter of Rights, a constitutional amendment, the Charter of Rights was passed, and for the first time in Jamaica, it became unconstitutional to discriminate against a woman because of her gender in relation to employment or promotion. It wasn't so before. So it can be done, but it's a hard uphill task. And we in NIA, we ask you to help us to do what we can do better. You can join us, become a member. It's on our website. You can see how you can become a member.